Hello, everyone. Welcome to the PechaKucha 2022 of Nature, Art, and Habitat. My name is Ilaria Mazzoleni, and I'm the founder of NAHR. NAHR is a think tank, a laboratory of multidisciplinary research located mainly in northern Italy, in Valtaleggio, but also with an outpost in Southern California. And we aim to unfold and display a sensitive type of culture that relates to nature as a source of inspiration and a measure of available resources. Our organization was started in northern Italy, but as we started in 2015, it has grown. And as NAHR's participation, as we like to say it, we have people from all over the world, not just join us as fellows, but also staying on over time or joining us in the organization of the programming. And you see some of us here today. And is one of the main reasons of today is really to share the outcome of this year with everyone that couldn't join the summer or come to NAHR in person to all locations, so that really the community gets together virtually, which is one of the positive things of virtuality. Sorry, I have people at me. We have many partners, many sustaining groups, and we want to thank everyone that over time has been joining and helping NAHR to go through many actions. We started as a residency program, and we definitely still are a residency program, but we have over time grown to do many other things, including conferences, workshops, interviews written and in videos, installations, and for the first time this year, we are joining a larger European grant, and that really allowed us to do more programming, including a show that we have ongoing in Bergamo right now, and some of the people here today are also in that show. So we are taking NAHR, which is an ideation space, a space for thinking and developing projects, into also different moments and even displaying some of the outcomes of the work of our community over time. Today is also the day that the United Nations Conference on Climate Change is starting. So it's an important day in many ways. And I just want to acknowledge that it's quite important for us to feel really part of this global conversation about environmental issues through our artistic and scientific actions. And the main core of today's conversation, though, are the works done at NAHR this past summer and in California in the spring and fall of 2022. As many of you know, the topic of this 2022 has been soil, the critical zone. And today we are reflecting in some of the experiences. We had more than 30 participants throughout the summer or the year. Not everybody could be here today. It's already, complex to find people at the same time in the same availability, but everyone, is here in spirit, and we want to acknowledge everyone that has been here. And what we are going to do is to give voice to the people present today for about 5 minutes and 5 slides. And after their presentation, we will have, which will take about an hour, a little Q&A and have any reflections that may emerge from here, and eventually share a few other aspects of the events and the residency. And also we will announce 2023 topic. So if you stay until towards the end, we will announce that as a little takeaway of the day. So I'm gonna now stop sharing for a second, and I'm gonna give the word first to Anne LaForti. But before that, I also want to welcome everyone, and I see that people starting to connect. Thank you for joining us, and yeah, enjoy the conversation. For now, it will be the spotlight on the fellows, and later we will unmute everyone, and everyone can, as they prefer, join and participate as well. So, and let me find your file for 1 second, and then I'm gonna share it. Sorry, are several files, so it takes me that 1 second extra to find it. I found it, but it's just and if you like to start speaking, please to introduce yourself.
Sounds good. Thank you so much. So my name is Anne LaForti. I am that soil nerd. I was lucky enough to get to go as the fellow for spring for NAHR in the Santa Ynez Valley in California. And my project is called Soil as Pattern Language, Emulating Healthy Soil Communities. And so a little bit about me. I started out as a foodie a little while ago, and got into gardening sort of randomly, and got really excited about like the idea that nutrient dense foods is where, you know, the colors, flavors, and textures came from in food. And so I wanted to know, as a gardener, like, okay, but how do we grow nutrient dense foods? And I learned all about how the microbes in the soil are actually the key to cycling nutrients and making them plant available, and therefore feeding our plants these nutrients and making them nutrient dense. In that process, I also went on to become a biomimic, which is basically someone who looks at the patterns in nature to try to find design templates to solve human challenges. Next slide, please. So my experience with NAHR was really pretty great. It was a solo adventure. The NAHR residency in California is, you know, one person at a time. And so going from LA in the city to the middle of, you know, the country was really great to sort of separate this space and just give me time and space to think a lot about different things. My project allowed me to visit a bunch of regenerative ranches, farms, restaurants, a vineyard or two, and also to do a ride along with, actually the woman on the right here is Jackie, and she was doing an ecological outcome verification, which is a way for regenerative growers to be able to monitor the soil health as they try to work to improve the health of the land. Next slide, please. So in the process, I was able to take some soil samples and throw them under the microscope. I am a microscope nerd for sure. And to look at the soil samples from these regenerative ag locations. And I was really expecting to see a lot of life, just as like when I went to the Santa Ynez Valley, I was expecting that there was actually going to be a booming regenerative agriculture community there, and there really wasn't. And again, when I looked under the soil, there actually wasn't a lot of microbial life there either. But luckily, I was able to visit a vineyard where they had just made some Johnson Sioux bioreactor compost out of their spent wine grapes, and it had a bunch of wonderful microbes, really beneficial microbes, so that they could apply that as an inoculant to their soil. And I like this picture because it's a random picture that came up. It's actually the shape of a air bubble under my microscope, but I thought it was really fun. It kind of looks like a puppet trying to eat a grape. And so here is a picture that I took while on a ranch, and I just love the shape of the head of this sage. I put it on a projector and I traced the shape, and it really came out to be the shape of this human being trying to really wrap their arms around and hoard and control and hug nature. And I think that's really the irony of our lives, is that we are nature, and so trying to control it is sort of an irony there. Just like, yeah, okay, last slide. I was able to actually have a follow-up workshop and community discussion in August after my fellowship, and I was really happy to pull together some of the regenerative growers that I met, and along with some local consumers, to try to talk about a couple of things. What did they have right now in abundance? What do they need to be able to thrive? And what are the challenges that they expect in the next few years, so that we can really help build a community that is very closely networked, that can support each other in reciprocity. So thank you so much for listening. That is my presentation.
Thank you very much, Anne. It was perfect. And we are going to share now Petra's presentation. Give me 1 second. Unfortunately, the transition is not as fast as I was dreaming of. Petra, if you like to start speaking, I'm ready.
Okay. Well, I'm Petra Regent, and a visual artist, poet and gardener who lives in Bristol, southwest England. And I work with stones and earth and wood, combining drawing, photography and print to explore the spirit of place. And I'm fascinated by the impact of time and human history on the fabric of the natural world. I applied to NAHR because after 2 years of isolation and lockdown, I wanted to engage with other artists again, and also had the opportunity to explore the emotional relationship we have with the soil beneath our feet, using found earth pigments in the Telesia Valley. I was excited to explore a new landscape and way of life involving pastures, cows, and of course, cheese. When you try to make a usable pure pigment from the soil, you really have to get to know it intimately by spending hours grinding with a pestle and mortar and then repeatedly sieving to remove impurities. And you feel and hear the gritty sound of silica and other hard minerals beneath the pestle. And it's as if the soil's hidden character is finally revealed. The raw pigment is combined with oil and water and rubbed to make a medium for printing and drawing. And often the pigment that emerged wasn't corresponding to the original color of the soil. Unlike synthetic colors, the natural earth pigments are always warm and subtle. Next slide, please. I was amazed to discover how the different soil samples were in terms of color and texture. I wanted to find out what caused the soils in the Telesia Valley to be so different when they were all created from the same underlying calcareous and dolomite rocks. Soils gathered from the valley woodlands were dark brown, whereas those collected from high pastures were yellow, grey and grittier. How could they be so different? Next slide, please. On the high mountain pastures, water drains through permeable rocks, making the soil drier, so only specialized flowers and grasses can survive such extreme conditions. The moist soils in the low valleys are darker than mountain soils because they retain more moisture and much more decayed plant matter. There's an endless cycle where the location of the soil dictates which plants grow, and these plants in turn gradually change the color and texture of the soil. By creating and using pigments from the soil, my intention was to celebrate the role that life plays in this internal cycle of transformation of the soil. It's life that makes soil what it is. These are monoprints of the Telagio Valley, made using soil from the high pastures, low pastures, and ink from the grasses from Soto Chiesa. By using found earth pigments to make my own ink, I hope to celebrate the importance of soil, not only for growing food, but for the health of the entire planet. We live on planet Earth, it says it all. My 3 weeks spent in the Telagio Valley were inspirational. I made new friends, learned how to make pasta, and overcame new challenges. Thanks to Ilaria and Nora and my brilliant and supportive fellow artists, I learned to engage with the outside world again and be hopeful. Final slide, thanks. And this monoprint was exhibited and selected for the Royal West of England Academy Open Exhibition in Bristol this autumn. So I hope other people can, in Bristol, can see what the Telagio Valley is like. Thanks.
Thank you, Petra, very much. I am going to take things down. Roxanne, would you like to go next?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, please go ahead.
Thank you. Okay, so I'm Roxanne Korda. I've just put a screenshot here of my website just because it has all the things I do. So I'm a soprano. I sing opera music mostly, and I'm also a librettist, meaning that I write scripts specifically for operas or musical shows. But I'm also a researcher, and I'm currently pursuing a PhD in writing and producing operas about science. And I have an opera company, Infinite Opera. Yeah, if you're interested, we do lots of things. So next slide, please. So these are just some images from my time. I was really lucky that I got to go to the Abbey Tanzer in June, as well as coming to the Alt Res in July. So the bottom right-hand corner there, you'll see that was from a series of talks and workshops that we had in Abbey Tanzer. And we also got to go and see the cows and like the way that different the cheese factories and the way that different people use the soil and the land in the Telagio Valley. Yeah, next slide, please. So for my project, I only had a couple of weeks, so I was really just focused on kind of gathering information and data for the future. I did a couple of things. On the left there, what I was doing was trying to gather information about the humidity of the soil by doing a kind of chromatography experiment with the air from the soil. And then on the right, I was burying my microphone to try and capture sounds from the soil. And that's really, I then headed off in that direction more strongly. So next slide. That's it, yeah. No, the pictures. Okay. Well, so I've got some sounds here that were from recordings in the soil that just thought would be nice to share with you. So if you could click on Bells at Vines, this was the sound of the church bells from underground. This was this field where I took the sound was right next to the church bell, so you can really hear the field itself ringing like a bell after the bells. I mean, the bells don't sound like that in the air. So the next one, so in this clip, about 20 seconds in, you can start to hear quite a lot of action in the soil. So I'll shut up. Ilaria, maybe that, so you could hear that there was a little bit of crackling sometimes in that one. And then and there's also a low rumble, which I think is maybe a helicopter or a plane, I'm not sure. But the last one, maybe we don't have time, so perhaps we should move on to the next slide. But the last one is also something like a plane or a helicopter, but it's a different, completely different sound to the rumble in the one we just heard. So what I did, unfortunately, this picture has rotated I suppose I made it on the Google Drive maybe. But what I did was I took these recordings and I transcribed them, so you can see the edge of my transcription there from this fine field. And then if we can move on to the next slide, please. And then finally, I did a couple of performances using the transcribed, using the information I got out of the recordings back to the soil. So in this one, I was trying to mimic the sound of the clip, but there was a lot of action, and there was also the helicopter overhead, so I was making a lot of little clicking sounds to the soil. This is just a short clip of it. And then in the second one, it's just the beginning of another performance that was using a transcription from the soil. And all of that, I'm just now, I haven't had a chance to yet, but I'm going to be taking those transcriptions to make a larger work out of it, like a bigger sound section. I think I'm probably using the 5 minutes. Thank you.
Yeah, this was.
Oh yeah, and this was the this was a photo of me listening to the soil, which I was really lucky to have chosen for the exhibition in Bergamo. And this photo was taken by Sophia, who is going to be speaking later as well. And the photo.
Thank you, Rox.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you, Rox. Nora, are you okay to go next? Where we are. Meanwhile, I say thank you everyone for joining today. We see a lot of names, and thank you for sharing your 2022 projects, to the fellows present, and to our team for being here. We'll open to the conversation after the presentation. So if you if you'll be around, we'll have some more open conversations about soil, the critical zone. Today we are closing actually the 2022 programming, and we are announcing at the end of today the new topic for 2023. So we even have a little bit of suspense. Nora, when you're ready, go for it, share it, yeah.
Okay, I'm ready. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
All right. So. Okay, my name is Nora Sweeney. I'm a filmmaker, artist, and educator living in Los Angeles. And I actually was supposed to do this residency in 2020 when the theme was interconnectedness of species. So I still did a project based on that. And my project was portraits of interconnection in Valtaleggio. And I aim to do kind of a multimedia field guide of how species are interconnected in the valley. And I made photographs, drawings, paintings, sound recordings, and I shot 16mm footage that kind of spoke to these interconnections. So these two little paintings that I made here, one is of the swifts flying in and out of the church tower in the village, and then another is of a slug crawling on the blacktop after the rain. So I started off my project just by taking lots of walks in the valley and taking lots of photographs and just kind of collecting with this idea in mind about how the species are interconnected. And I especially was interested in how animals and plants were flourishing in human-made structures, or so for instance, there are all these stone walls all over the village and surrounding areas that have little ecosystems in them. And then this in the bottom right corner is some chard that came from a organic farm nearby, and I found a ladybug. I was about to take it into my kitchen, and then I found a ladybug living in it. And then I also got interested in individuals in the village that had some connection to the land or to animals. And so this is Gualtiero, who's a real character around town, who I later filmed. But this is a black and white photograph that I took of him. Next slide. So I made all these paintings, and thanks to Marco for taking all these nice photos of me painting, and Sonia also took some. So that's me painting in my kitchen in my apartment, and then there's three paintings completed paintings that I made on the right. So the first one was of this cow up in a field in Fragio, one of the villages overlooking Sotto Chiesa. And then the next one is of Ercole, who runs the store that sells cheese and meat. That was right next to the NAHR apartment building. And then I painted also one of these stone walls with the plants growing in it. And then the other aspect of my project was making a 16mm film, which takes time. And I shot footage while I was there in Sotto Chiesa, but I didn't get to develop it and edit it. So I'm in that process now. And but this is just a still that Marco took, and so thanks to Sonia for recording sound and helping me with translation. So here I'm filming with my 16mm camera, and Sonia's recording sound, and I'm filming Ireneo, who was a farmer that kind of was between Sotto Chiesa and Vericetta, one of the nearby villages, and he's milking one of his goats. So then last thing is I just wanted to show a very short excerpt of my footage, which I recently got developed at the lab. So I'll do that. And it's silent right now. So just keep that in mind. And it's very rough, but it is, at least you can get a sense of what I was doing other than making these paintings and drawings. So
Could you tell us the characteristic also of the 16mm, since you are showing it and the format?
Yeah, it's the 16mm that I shot. It's 4:3, so it has a square format, and it has this very kind of softer image and more vibrant colors than if you shoot HD video. And then I shot this particular stock that's very vibrant in its reds and greens. So it was really nice to shoot in Sotto Chiesa. So the first shot was the swifts flying in and out of the church tower. And this is a guy taking his cows to pasture. They're just walking in the middle of the street. And I felt very lucky that I could catch that. And the thing about 16mm, it takes time to adjust the aperture, and really you have to be very ready to shoot. So it's hard to shoot things on the fly sometimes, but sometimes you just get lucky that you're ready when something interesting is happening. This is Ireneo walking in his farm, and he's milking one of his goats. Okay, sorry about that. Here we go. And this is Gualtiero walking to feed his cows. And this is Anna, who runs the bar in town, or one of the bars. And she's trimming her roses. She has this really beautiful garden across from the bar. And here's Ercole opening up his shop in the morning. And here's a snail I found in the backyard of the apartment building. That's it.
Thank you. Marco, are you okay to be the next one? And hi.
Yes. Maybe I can, bueno, you can share. Okay.
Yeah, I'm already sharing. Yeah, so please go ahead.
Yeah, yes, I just look. See. Bueno, hi all. I'm Marco. Marco Ranieri. I'm artist and researcher. I'm Italian, but I live in and work mostly in Spain, in Valencia. The project I made in NAHR is edaphic fermentation. That is research that focuses on edaphone, the biota of the soil, and studies its potential to act as yeast. During the residencies, I carried out some artistic experiment using soil sample obtained in different places at varying altitudes and climate conditions in Valtaleggio, mostly of wood, pastures, and rivers. And I use these samples to ferment flour for baking breads. You can pass the slide. Hi, thank you. So I started collecting soil samples in different places of Valtaleggio. This is a sample of, in the picture, this is a sample from the wood and algal wood. And principally was these three types of places: woods, pastures, and rivers. You can pass the slide, please. I analyzed the soil samples with the microscope. Thank you to Daniel, that is another fellow. And I analyzed the soil samples, searching for the edaphone, especially for bacteria and fungi. And this is in this picture, the little white points on the, in the past slide, the little white points are bacteria. I used the soil sample to ferment the flour for baking the breads, and each bread was fermented with a specific soil sample and using the same measure of soil melted in the same quantity of flour and water and sugar. So the difference in the size of the bread was only for the effectivity of the yeast of the soil acting as yeast. This is just a picture of me baking bread. Nora, take the picture, thank you. And after this, I cooked the bread in the oven of the pizzeria in Sottochiesa, and we tossed the soil fermented bread with the NAHR Fellows and some Sottochiesa inhabitants, mostly especially in the open studio. And the last picture is just a picture of the open studio. I made a you can this. I put the soil breads with a sample of levitation and with the samples with the soil samples and the documentation of the soil samples. And that is all. Thank you all for listening. I have here. It's all. And if you, well, I have here one of the breads.
Hold it higher because we don't see it. Can you hold it higher? Yeah, okay.
Si vede?
Sì.
Okay. And just that is all. Thank you all for.
Thank you, Marco. And Sonia, can you say something to see if we hear you or not?
I don't know.
Where are you? Yeah.
Are you hear me? You can hear me?
Yes. So you can go ahead and start. We are all good.
Thank you very much. Sorry, I don't know what is happened with my mic. I am Sonia Arienta, and I am a PhD researcher and a playwright in different contexts. That is to say, I write and I have a written text for theater, but since 2005 to now, I am also very interested in project with, I define dramaturgy of spaces. The work presented during my residence as NAHR June Fellow belongs to this field. My research focuses on power relations, conflicts of interest, hidden censorships, asymmetrical relations of Western society, especially from French Revolution to present time. And I put the space at the center of my attention, especially in my project at the name of Dramaturgy of the Spaces, Declare. In this kind of works, I focus my attention especially on the relations developed in some specific places or on the functions of the space and on its socio-economical context. And so this is a reason to choose to realize projects about environmental issues and notably related to the soil and about characters belonging both to the vegetal and the animal world. And so about the concept of soil in a mountain environment context, such as Taleggio Valley, in appearance a range of the nature, give me the ideal condition to find contradictions, conflicts, hidden interests, and censorships more or less latent, more or less evident regarding the management of the soil itself. This picture, this slide represents the first actions of my work entitled Vuoti d'erba. This is quite difficult to translate because I used a joke with an expression in Italian that sound as pocket of air, and so it's not quite like void or empty herbs, but this first act is about the goats and a campaign against these animals started at the end of 18th century and just until the fascism in the 20th years of 25th century. 20th century. These are patron saints, gods, and because and this is the second act, and check exchange, and is a exchange about different kind of soil in change of concrete and streets and building and so on. And the third act, and the next slide, please, is what there is underneath, and is about layers which composing soil. And we have a first layer with salt, and second with roots, third with fields, and the fourth with cadastral maps. And the first one is represents wild woods covering Po Plain in Italy. And the last slide is please, the last one represents a public puzzle. Where could I have the? Thank you. A public puzzle made by 5 women living in Taleggio Valley, and who I would like to thank, and they are Marisa Bonzi, Monica Carnelli, Manuela Comotti, and Valeria Uffredi, and Franca Velardita, and they helped me to knitting this little square represented the 2 meters, around 2 meters square of soil gained and instead of permeabilization, because of the slide, the precedent slide represent 2 meters square of damaged soil of land take. And this is, on the contrary, the new rehabilitation of the soil. And so I would like to take this work in other context, because I would like to create a big public puzzle in other villages in a mountain. In the Alps. Well, I don't know how many time I had, because I was distracted, and now I would like to say also that I use the concept of soil construction in a double way, literally and metaphorically. And the literal meaning of land take concerns the act of impermeabilization of the earth with its reversible and irreversible consequences. And the metaphorical meaning refers to changes and hidden threats against the space where our roots are and our support are set or located. And I think it's very important that people can make some questions about it, and how the soil and the concept of soil protection can change during the time, because this work can show how this concept is very fragile and transformable by interest, by human interest.
Thank you. Thank you, Sonia, very much. Audrey, would you like to go next, please, and share directly your screen since you have the latest?
Great.
Thank you. We have, we have two more presentations, and then we open up to the conversation just to give an overview.
It started with the last slide, of course. Hello, I'm Audrey Snyder. I also was a participant in Santa Ynez, California, and I wanted to say thank you for having me and how excited I am to present, because I think so much of the other presentations pick up lines and themes and actions that I also am exploring. So my project is called Tracing Transhumance, and I was in Santa Ynez in October, just a couple of weeks ago. I use this word transhumance, in Italian transumanza, which comes from this verb and place together. So trans, across, humus meaning earth or soil. And so I'm proposing a year-long fieldwork of following a particular group of sheep across all the boundaries, land uses, soil types, and ecosystems. Again, I'm Audrey Snyder. My project is called Tracing Transhumance, and I was in California in October 2022, also as a solo artist in residence. My project is inspired by this term of transhumance, and I have been working with a group of shepherds and shepherdesses in Central California for the past 6 months, following their herd of sheep as they move from contract to contract across a region in Central and Southern California. I'm interested in following the flock because I wanted to try and almost use the movement of these animals and the work that they do as a way to trace and understand human relationships with animals, with soil, with plants, in movement, and in responsiveness. Oops. These two images come from different seasons. So I've been tracing the movement through 3 seasons now. Looking at the patterns of how we ask these animals to do the work, what people are involved, and the type of relationships that we're building with the soil and plants. So on the left is Jenja Snyder, who's one of the owners and operators, shepherdesses, who's putting up fence and using the fence lines and the ways we're asking animals to move as types of transects of reading the landscape and understanding the soil relations that go along with them. On the right is some soil that is underneath an oak tree with annual grasses and native grasses. So thinking about how this tracing of movement can help us understand those very specific, site-specific relationships between human and non-human actors. This is so sensitive. For my time at NAHR, I was interested in collecting soil samples that really trace these relationships and pinpointing specific places where these traces emerge out of either an archival history, a way of representing these relationships, or the actual traces in the landscape itself. I ended up looking really deeply at some public archives in California and trying to find traces of sheep shepherding or representations of annual grasslands. And I worked with an archive from USC and was able to look at those images and do a reading of where these animals show up in time and space as a way to kind of trace them back onto the landscape. And then I was making these soil sampling collages where I'm collecting the soil and asking it to be in relation to these past histories of its use, past traces of its abuse, and then compressing them into various forms and traces. So on the top, I'm actually taking imprints of animal footprints with the soil and clay bodies that I find in the landscape, and on the bottom, compressing the soil and clay that I find into bells that then start to kind of have their own resonances with these specific places. So silent bells that help us center and locate this flock of sheep in the landscape. I put this picture because this is a curated sample of the work that was spread out in the gallery. So I love the way that Ilaria put these objects together. And I wanted to kind of give a salute to this kind of ongoing process of tracing and collecting and analyzing soil in different contexts. That's not necessarily Cartesian or necessarily located in any particular place, but which is constantly on the move, in flux, and co-created amongst animals, humans, and the soil itself. So thank you.
Thank you, Audrey. And I am going now, we have Sophia, last but not least.
Do you want me to share, or are you going to share?
No, I'm ready. I think.
Okay, I hope it's not complicated clips that I'm going to be showing.
Oh, we'll see. You're the last one. Go for it.
Okay, well, yeah, again, thank you so much for having me. I was lucky enough to spend an entire month in Italy at NAHR, during which I created 3 works that all ended up being really related to each other, especially in material. And they do all express ideas of interconnection, coexistence, and mutual care. And I just want to say that all these works were absolutely molded and influenced and aided by the residents of NAHR and the community. None of these works would be what they are or what they were without the input that I received from everyone. So yeah, so this was the first piece I did. I created this kind of like land art in front of the church at Sotto Chiesa. And I timed it with a service that was happening at the church. It's a circular braid of soil with 3 different types of soil I collected from the river, from the forest, and from the high pastures. And then I formed them in this shape to express this idea of interconnection and care and cycle. You can go on to the next slide. Yeah, so this was continuing that process, but here you can see that the center of it, I ended up filling it with flour to also speak about soil as connected to our food sources. And it also had the added benefit of creating a trace. So if you go to the next slide, you can see that as people walked through it when they were exiting the mass, their footprints all had the flower really marked all of their footprints. So then we also saw like this movement and like what gets carried away. And then the last thing that I want to show is that this piece could not have been complete without Roxanne, who did a public intervention where she performed an aria as people were leaving the mass. And she christened the braids with her step and by spreading dandelion seeds. I'm not sure if you'll be able to hear it. It's linked to, maybe I'll share it if I can.
It's not linking, right? Do you want to share it?
Yeah, I'll share. So it's a very rough clip, but I think that you can understand. And it was very beautiful. Maybe Roxanne can talk a little bit more about what the aria meant, but it definitely captivated the town. And it was just a really special thing to have right after people had taken part in the Catholic Mass. Sorry, I didn't mean to do that. I guess I can just continue sharing from here.
Yeah.
So then the second piece that I created ended up being just a very intuitive exploration of soil as material and as food. I united soil, roots, dandelion seeds, stone, and twigs to create these confectionery sculptures, which I installed as desserts. Yeah, and these were beautifully documented by Julie Troscher, who was another resident at the time. And then I'm going to present the very last piece, which is called Mani e Zoccoli. I'm just going to show a brief clip. And this is where I engaged with the regenerative cycle between the valley's grazing cows and the soil, planting dandelion seeds and doing so by following the movement of these cows with the intention of contributing to the regeneration of the valley's soils. I'll stop sharing now, but I just wanted to say that that last performance, it definitely could not have been done without Fiorella, who is a female herder in Sotto Chiesa and has been doing it for generations. And she was very, very generous with her time and with her herd. So thank you.
Thank you, Sophia. Thank you, everyone. So with these presentations, we are kind of closing the people that are present Q&A, and I see a few hands already on. Maristella and maybe Richard first, if you have you want to say anything critical to the continuation, or Richard is saying just adding also on the chat if you like at this point, and we'll give words to people that wants to add something or ask questions. And we have about 10 minutes for this, and then we do a little bit of a closing. So I don't know, Richard, Maristella, you wanted to say something, Richard? Yeah.
I mean, quickly, Ilaria, this is more a comment than a question. There will be many questions, but we need long time, like a workshop, one time. But I have to say that I've never been, I mean, though I'm a part of the team of NAHR, I had no opportunity. I live in Los Angeles to go so far to be part of the Sotto Chiesa summer program. But I have to say that this year, compared to other years, I mean, we have done the PechaKucha, I mean, about soil, it has been extremely enriching. All the presentations were very different, very creative, full of esprit, of joy, and congratulations to the presenters. That's all. I mean, soil seems to have been very successful. While when we started with soil, at a certain moment we said, maybe this is too dry, maybe we will, I mean, we had lengthy discussion in the team. And this is, in a way, rewarding specifically Ilaria and the others, I mean, about what the discussion has been. Thank you to everybody.
Thank you, Maristella. Richard, do you have, oh, Deborah, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so just echoing what Maristella said, there were very different projects, and the degree to which sound played a role this year was unusual for me. I feel like the projects were all in their own way field guides with very different perspectives on what field you were looking at. But as complicated as the technology was, the addition of sound, I think, partially made it so much more real what the research projects were. So it's something, Ilaria, for us to think about how to more easily incorporate that. But it was very different images of the valley, and in their own way, very much field guides. I applaud the work too.
Thank you, Deborah. Anyone also of the presenters, you know, the fellows, if you want to add something or any reflection, you don't have to, but then just is open to anyone who wants to. Today, again, we had about 30 fellows this summer, between 25 and 30, depending if we count the Avitanza experience as well. So the diversity of the projects were really incredible. And we have had certainly a sample today from, you know, Marco bread that was really an experiment using soil as yeast. We had someone else also baking and cooking and really using, again, the kitchen as a place for experimentation in the reading of soil. Adriana, that is not there, to the sound, to listening to the earth and try to really understand how others may generate sound. So it was really through a different media that we are used to. And people stay between 2 and 4 weeks. So there is a variety also in the time and exploration possible in such a length. So I think the work presented today was also about the process, which is very important in this ideation phase, right? The finished work might come in a year or 2 years, even for some of the fellows. The residency is really a ideation time for many.
I just got to say a couple words. Can I speak up here?
Of course.
Okay. I have to agree. I just really appreciated all of the work. You know, one thing really jumped out at me was actually how much of the coverage was sort of in the first person, right? Sort of put us into the place. And then with that, there's kind of this interesting paradox in a very positive way, which is that this work draws our attention to our relationship to the land in a way that's very much contrary to the kind of romanticized pastoral celebration of you know, conventionally, obviously gorgeous landscapes that humans have you know, celebrated since forever. And there's something timely about that, right? You know, getting our attention to go beyond the aesthetic, somewhat superficial relationship to what constitutes a positive relationship to the landscape, to something much deeper. And I thought that was really, really great to see.
Thank you, Tim.
I think I have one general question, maybe for the residents and the fellows that just completed their residency, in particular to the experience that you had, because it seemed also too that this year, many of you collaborated with one another in some form. So that kind of interdisciplinary aspect was really, I think, heightened in this sense. And I just wanted to know if maybe some of you could talk a little bit more to that, in collaborating with other artists or other professions in the fields of science, perhaps, and what that kind of led in terms of your work, or what it provoked, I guess. So we have Anne or Sophia. Go ahead, Anne.
Sure. Mine was sort of a distant collaboration with Audrey. She reached out before her residency, and I sort of tried to, connect her to the network that I had formed with the local community so that we could share that network together.
Maybe I'll piggyback on that because I think despite the fact that our residencies in Santa Ynez were solo artists, I felt like it was an invitation to collaborate in a very different way. I am an artist and also a researcher, and I really value different forms of collaboration that come from different disciplines, but I think it was an entirely different experience to arrive at a new place and feel like the work that had been done in that place and those kind of residues of either themes or relationships were really kind of accessible and worth following up. So I hope that that's something that continues, at least in California, because it was really helpful and very exciting to experience. So I wanted to thank Anne again for that.
Thank you. Sophia?
Yeah, I think that I really would not have, sculpture I had never tried it before, and I would not have even attempted it if I hadn't been conversing with Adriana Gallo, who is very talented and has been a sculptor for many years. So and just conversations about like working with your resources, what you have available, and just like encouraging play and exploration. Those were amazing. I would not have been able to have documentation or video if I had not had my residents with me. Everyone was so generous with their time, their resources, their skills, their talents. Like that was absolutely the best part about being at NAHR. And then for others to let me into their process and their work was, yeah, it was also very, I'm very grateful, and it was very beautiful. So I think that it's just such a rewarding experience to connect so deeply, so quickly with others through a shared love of art and nature.
Thank you. There are some comments in writing also. There was a point from Sophia, if there was a presentation to the local community, and maybe, I don't know if one of you wants to address that, or Sonia or Mark also, about kind of how you presented your work. Or we have seen Sophia's presentation outside the church, for example, or event, but there were others. I can speak to it, of course, but I rather ask you guys to speak to it. But you are muted, so I don't know, Mark or Sonia, if you want to unmute yourself.
Well, I don't know if you can hear me because...
Yes, we can.
Well, I thought about this work as an interaction with people, because this work can't be without people, because I just chose to name each part act/action because I need an action made by visitors. And so not for the first act, but for the second, third, and fourth act. In the second act, people destroy, I asked to destroy my work, my drawings, to tear in pieces and put in a dish. And in change, I offer a little stick of a tree, birch tree in a fire occurred in Valtaleggio, in a mount named Monte Zuccone in the last winter, or a photocopy of my of a drawing of mine, black and white, with streets or parking or flats. And in the other acts, I ask, for example, to take away 4 of the 5th of the 5 layers of the work. And to do a collage or something of that, or a bookmark, or even to put it in the garbage if you want. And in the last part, the public puzzle, each visitor write me a word about soil, just a word that they are thinking about soil, and I collect this word, they write it, and I put with a pin over the square in the wool square.
Thank you. So yes, we had these public presentations for everyone to engage with the local community that over time also participated to the making of the arts in general. We have only a few minutes left. There is time for one comment, and then I'm going to proceed to share a few more news and information and stuff, and announcing the next year topic, and we are gonna close. Anyone, any final comment while I set up the sharing of the screen that always takes me some time.
I think I had one comment too to expand on Sophia's question on the chat. I think that some of the projects such as Nora's and Anne's and also Marco's, they incorporated the workers and the kind of laborers that are also kind of existing within these conditions and these parameters that they work through. And there's kind of like an intimate type of relationship in the way you document them. So is that like something that you really contribute to the work and how you kind of really work through it and think about incorporating actually those faces, those things that we don't necessarily see or are accustomed to seeing in that way? So I don't know if you have a response to that. Go ahead, Anne.
Sure. So, I mean, my exploration was really, it really was to visit all of those people and try to understand their perspective from within the regenerative community, which is very small in Santa Ynez Valley. And then the sort of the bookend to that was the workshop at the end, where I was able to pull them together to meet each other and discuss their challenges and their sort of celebrations together.
Thank you. Anyone else? Should I move towards the close?
I think we can move forward.
Yeah. So thank you again, everyone that participated. And these are the people couldn't join today, but we want to acknowledge their work and the special program that we started the summer with a group of young local students and artists and some of the fellows that stayed for a week and collaborated. And then the many projects that you will be able to see. I'm not gonna speak to each of them because it would take another hour, but I just want to kind of an eye candy of the multiplicity of work from science to art to performing artists that participated in the making of the summer, and these collegial aspects also of NAHR that every group experienced in different ways. We even had a disco night with DJing one night, and these are actually the work of the artists and actions on the land itself, from architects, filmmaking, interventions in the landscape, and the making, as we have seen today, play and games using local elements to inspire us, and again, more movies describing soil in the experience, and this was including all the local inhabitants of the village, And then we had the work that was presented today. So really quickly, this was kind of acknowledging everyone that was here. And in closing, we want to announce, a few upcoming things that are great and bringing us to 2023 to continue engaging with all of you. And actually, before I move into this, I see Ute, and I want also to acknowledge that we did a little video to participate to this larger discussion about water conservation in the world, and is on our Facebook and Instagram. Was yet another mini action that contributed to a larger impactful action that Ute is working on. But as we progress in 2023, we have the announcement of this larger European project Impact, for which we will also do fundraising and hiring and trying to involve again the existing community, because we'll go on for the entire year. And we are working on a book of NAHR, as many of you know, and we have an event coming up in Los Angeles announcing the opening of the 2023 call. So Impact is about empathy and sustainability, and we will have several workshops in addition to what we usually have. So again, we are welcoming you to stay in the community and both virtually and in person visit us next summer and continue working with us on the topic. And the announcement is that next year topic is air. So we are moving from soil to air, and the reading of the topic is continuing to be in many multiple ways, right? We will want to continue thinking of air as many things, and many important aspects of air are fundamental to our lives, and ours not just as humans, but also for non-human living organisms. And as we have seen with soil, we are looking for richness of approaches. We are not enforcing any one approach, but something that continue to be provocative and forward thinking. And one of the challenging of what we are currently working on is to really find, how do we define air in a title, right? In a subtitle where we want to, just be an inspiration with the title. So we don't have, we wrote here vote, there is no time to vote, and we haven't defined, but if you think of anything that you want to send us a message or an email or a text message here in the next 1 minute and think, what could be a subtitle for 2023 air that really inspires the future group of participants and all of us, that we want to encourage you to continue to stay and follow us and participate in the next programming, because as we like to say, NAHR is participation, and we want to thank you all for being here today and joining this conversation. So again, thank you everyone. This was very inspiring for us, and we want to I see that there is already some action, so we are gonna leave it on for a few minutes. If you guys want to send us something, we are really also looking for bibliography, inspirations, and we'll try to capture and continue the conversations as we go, starting December 8th. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Goodbye. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Goodbye. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.